Hey folks, this is Gray here, and in today's video what we're going to look at are the fundamentals of building a get home bag, bug out bag, a 72-hour kit or whatnot. There's a lot of variations in names, what they're called, but we're going to look at how to build one of those from scratch. Alright, so that being said, before we get started and kind of go through gear and bags and whatnot, I want to be clear in why I'm making this video. I don't expect anybody out there to duplicate exactly what I have. I will put links down in the description because I get a lot of questions in regards to when I show things and things that I have and the way I build out these kits. So I will add those down in the description so that folks can click on them, look at them, and look at the pricing and kind of decide for themselves, is this something that they need to have when they're building an emergency kit. Honestly, the main reason I'm doing this video is because I'm building a get-home bag for my wife. Now in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at several different bag options that you can choose from depending on what areas that you live in, the size bag that you may need depending on the type of kit that you're building. I think by using this method is going to increase your survivability odds tremendously. Be it if it's a bag that you want to keep in your vehicle or a bag that you're going to use in natural disasters or emergencies or a true SHTF situation. So many folks may ask, well, what are the 10 C's of survival? Well, I got them written down here to make it really easy to kind of go over. So basically, I've gone over these in the past and kind of given you iterations of ideas of what they pertain to. So while we're doing this video, as we touch on each one of these things, I'll go into greater detail as I'm showcasing the products that I'll be using to build this emergency kit. All right, so now let's go over the specific 10 C's of survival. You have cutting, combustion, cover, container, cordage, candling, cotton, cargo, compass, and canvas. Now I can expand on that, like cutting tool, combustion device, cover/shelter, container, which kind of is self-explanatory, cordage, your 550 cord or bank line. Candling basically means, a way to light yourself, be it a headlamp or a flashlight, something of that nature. Cotton material like your bandanas and shamogs and stuff like that. Cargo tape basically results into duct tape or any type of tape thereof, but I prefer duct tape more than anything. And then a compass, which is self-explanatory, and a canvas needle, which we'll go over, and what I think is probably one of the best bets that you can find on Amazon. Honestly, that worked really, really well. All right, so let's talk bags. Before anybody drops the comment of, hey, this video is really long, well, there's a lot of information to go over. When it comes to bags, there's going to be a small, medium, and large, and also variations of different colorizations of the bags. And what I mean by that is some people may go the tactical route versus some people may go the GreyMan route. And what I mean by that specifically is it all depends on the area that you live in. So let's say you live in an urban environment like New York City. You probably want to go a little bit more GreyMan. But if you live out in the rural area and tactical is just kind of in and everybody runs around with tactical looking backpacks, that might be an option for you. Key factor when looking at building some of these bags out is also the weight capacity. And what I mean by weight capacity is you don't want to build something that weighs 80 pounds. You're a 150-pound person, and that is not going to work for you. Be it on your capabilities, your age, your physical structure, things of that nature. All right, so as you can see, this is pretty much a small bag. It's basically the same bag that I use for my EDC. It's just what I choose personally. Some people don't consider it EDC because of the size of it, but this is a small bag in a coyote color, so it kind of gives that kind of military or tactical kind of, variation of what people might think it's tactical because of the MOLLE webbing and all that stuff on there. But basically, let's say you're building this out for a teen or a small kid or someone of a smaller stature. This might be an option for them. Of course, you can pick different colors or more or less, militaristic looking bags, but you can kind of see the ideas of having a small bag like this. I like these bags because they're just so affordable and they're extremely durable for what they are. And I think I pay like 25 bucks for these things, and I use them for a lot of different other things outside of just building kits. Right, so this is kind of like a medium-sized bag. This bag is by Maxpedition. It's one of I think their commuter series, but of course it's gray. So it has that kind of monotone, kind of like don't pay attention to me bag until you open the thing up, and there's lots of nifty little gadgets inside these bags. That being said, I guess if you guys ever want me to actually break down some of these bags and kind of look at the insides of them and kind of go over them, I can do reviews on these bags as well. But I like the bag. It looks like a standard backpack, but it has a lot of neat features on the inside. The way this thing opens up, And you can just kind of, looks pretty standardized, but it can pack a punch in regards to all the different things that you can kind of put in here. As you can see, I've added mag pouches and stuff like that, but no one really is going to know what's inside that bag. And sorry about the camera angles. I'm just kind of trying to go through these bags really quick so we can actually get to the gear that we're going to be putting in these bags. It does have a little thing that you can put a patch on if you choose to do so, but all in all, two sides where you can add water cups, water filtration devices, or anything of that nature. But this is, I would call this more of a GreyMan bag. All right, so now for the large bag, and I consider this to be very, very large because this is actually a bag that's geared towards hiking, maybe through hiking and stuff like that. It's by Mystery Ranch. Now, Mystery Ranch makes a solid product, folks. It's made to last, and it has lots of bells and whistles. That being said, as you can tell on the side, with the belts and stuff like that, it's made to sit on your hip to reduce that fatigue on your lower back. Nice shoulder straps. It's just an all-around solid bag, and you can pack a lot of stuff in here depending on what you're going to do. They have a lot of different variations of their bag. This is black, so it still kind of has like that don't really pay attention to me kind of thing. Maybe someone will see the Mystery Ranch thing. I don't know if anybody knows what that is specifically outside of, let's say, the prepper, the hiking kind of communities and whatnot. But all in all, the Mystery Ranch makes a solid product. All right, so hopefully that gives you some ideas on bag choices and why some may be better than others depending on what you're trying to do, right? So now let's get into gear, right? And we're going to go into, I guess, my dining room area because it's the only place I could lay out all this stuff to kind of go over and kind of go touch on hone at each aspect of all the 10 C's of survival. And then I'm going to add in a little additional things to the end of it that what I'm adding to the Weiss bag for specific reasons. And then maybe that'll give you, spark some ideas. Again, I'm going to repeat this. You don't have to build your bag exactly the way I'm doing hers, but you can just garner some ideas from what I'm showing you and, kind of give yourself a foundation on what to look for and what things that might work for you. Because what this is this works for me and my family, and through my experiences, I find this to be the best kind of foundation to build an emergency kit. All right, so we're going to start off, like I said, with the 10 C's, and the first C is going to be a cutting tool. Now, cutting tools, the best option is to carry something like a full tang knife, and then with a good multi-tool as a backup, and some people may even carry a pocket knife. Some people may carry a hatchet. I prefer a folding saw. I prefer the Silkies. They're just a lot more packable for me, and they take up a little less space, and they're a lot more lightweight. All right, so this is one of my wife's favorite knives. This is by Beavercraft. Comes in a leather sheath. It is a full tang knife, as you can see there. It's a solid knife, folks. Wood handle. You could always attach some paracord to that and whatnot. The jimping on there is very robust. It is very lightweight for even what it looks like. The spine on it is a pretty decent size, but all in all, she loves this knife, and so I'm going to go ahead and add it to her kit. All right, moving on to a multi-tool. You could choose a Leatherman or Gerber, whatever you prefer. Something that just has a lot of options, wire cutters, all the different little things. I like something that has the options for, screwdrivers, Phillips heads, and flatheads, as well as scissors and things like that may be built into something like this. But like I said, it'd be really your choice on the type of multi-tool that you're looking to get. So we're going to go ahead and throw that in there. Again, redundancies when it comes to each individual of the 10 C's. You want to make sure that you have redundancies. And like I said, this is just a little pocket knife that she carries on her as a backup. You know what I mean? You just never know for maybe some smaller things to get into. This is one of the O knives. She likes the action on it because it kind of opens up quickly. And she just likes the color and texture of this blade. Moving on to the Silkies. I have a ton of Silky saws. I feel like you can't go wrong with them. This is a new rendition of the Silky saws. Of course, you've probably never seen it. It's kind of like this different handle on here. I like it because it is just made for the outdoors with the coating that they have on this. This thing is like a hot knife through butter through most projects. I think sawing is a lot more quieter than chopping down wood or hacking. But if you need to just, process some wood in regards to, starting a small fire, I think you can't beat something like a Silky saw. And I know this is the Pocket Boy. I don't know what size it is if it happens to say it on there. It actually says it on the blade there. It is the 170 Professional. the Outback Edition. That's what they call these things, the Outback Edition. I love the look and the feel, and it's just a great tool. So let's now move into a combustion or a combustion device. This should include at least 2 or 3 options for getting fire started. Fire is an absolute necessity to keep you warm, to purify water. Just so many things comes to it. Hence why you see an array of different options for fire. Some people like to use big lighters. I've learned to like these crickets, or is it clippers? Crickets, clippers. That's what they're called. I don't know why. Ferrocerium rods and other different options, and having some available dry tinder just in case you're in a wet environment is also going to be beneficial. So let's kind of go over some of this stuff real quick. All right, so let's start off with the easiest way to start a fire, which is with and you're probably wondering what this is. I did a video on this a while ago. It's kind of an all-in-one kind of fire starting kit. You got some paracord, you got some duct tape on both ends of these. I put a little bit of piece of cotton in there. You have the petroleum jelly, of course. You can also use it as the lip balm that it is. And it's a big lighter, pretty simplistic in nature. But I like it because it keeps the two together. But I've noticed that I've kind of started liking a lot of these clipper lighters, just because you can remove this aspect up to it. You can basically, this is where the flint and stuff goes and stuff like that. So you still have this like rocker here that you could use on it, and it's a lot easier to use in that simple manner there. And then it just kind of pops back into place, and they're refillable, so you can kind of keep these going. And I like to use high vis colors in regards to lighters in case you drop it and you need to track back where you're hiking or whatnot. Having high vis is going to make things a lot easier for folks. Ferrocerium rod. Some people are very proficient in a ferrocerium rod. Some folks aren't. I keep this one in a container for her because in case she needs to use a container for some odds and ends, I figure having it in the container. Again, more paracord and a striker with this. It has a little couple of odds and ends. You've probably seen these plenty of times before. But I like that it comes in, I can stick it in this tube here and it's, easily put away and safe. Not that it matters if it gets wet or nothing. That's not going to be a big issue. Some people may wonder, well, Grey, what is this? Now, all this really is pine sap. This is hardened pine sap, and it makes great for fire starting material. Just having a little bit extra of that put away is great to easily start a fire. This is some organic cotton. Of course, like I said, you can use petroleum jelly and stuff like that and even spice this up. It's in a sealed bag. I like that it's very compact. It just fits in a pack really good. I also have some secondary fire starters. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Uncle Tommy's, these little fire starters. And these are kind of like little discs coming to the same premises. I got a bunch of them in here with lots of little wafers and whatnot. And you can kind of break those and use those for fire starting material as well as tinder. And then I showed this in my EDC kit. These are little beeswax candles that you can use just for ambient lighting or to start a fire, especially if you have a way to get this wick going. Or you can use the beeswax itself. But they're nice to have a couple of these to have. You can even use these because I think they're 4, 6, 8 hours, somewhere around that in this little tin here. And then, of course, you can reuse the tin once that's done. Same with this here if you need to make some char cloth or whatnot. And we'll get into that as well. But they're very handy. And then, last but not least, is just a follow-up backup. As you can see, fire is truly important to me. This is another way to, another little striker. I think this is, what is this one? I forget the name of the brand. Zippo or somebody, I don't know. Anyway, so the reason I threw this in there is because inside of it, of course, you got some more tinder. Can't go wrong there. And as well as some black tape. There's 25 feet of black tape on this little thing right here. And black tape comes in also handy for other things like patching things up. It is also flammable and can be used as a fire starter as well. All right, folks, so let's move on to where we're at. We are cover, which is going to be our third C. Basically, cover means shelter. But cover includes your clothing, which of course should be appropriate for the weather that you're dealing with. Basically, I'm in Florida, so hot and humid most of the time. And if you're in the northern regions, of course, snowy, cold, that kind of stuff like that. But you also have to kind of think about overnight, if you're point A to point B. So let's say specifically I'm building this kit for my wife, she is 32.4 miles away from her job to home, and it's mostly highway. She has to account that if she has to break that into a night or two, she has to, you know, think about nighttime and where she's going to set up camp. Being that she's a woman too, she has to be kind of conscientious of certain issues that may arise, so she wants to be very careful. Florida, it's very rainy, so, you know, having a rain poncho, which I don't have here in front of me, but you could take one of these black contractor bags and make one, but she does have a rain poncho in the back of her vehicle. So that being said, you know, simple rain ponchos can be used as tarps and whatnot, which I prefer. Like, make sure that if you get a tarp, it's rainproof. It doesn't have holes, tears, it's not very thin. I've run into the issues like that using Dollar Tree tarps and stuff like that, just kind of playing around with them and whatnot. And another huge thing is knowing how to create a shelter from natural materials is also an important skill to have. One that can easily be acquired from watching many YouTube videos. So let's kind of go over what we have here and why this is, I consider this all in regards to cover. Because there's lots of different things when it comes to covering your face, your head, and stuff like that. All right, so that being said, in Florida, most of us, we carry, at least most of the folks that I deal with, we carry hammocks with mosquito netting. And the reason that we do that is because in Florida, there's lots of creepy crawlies on the ground, from ants to spiders to snakes. And just in general, it's just not really probably the best option to kind of sleep on the ground like in other places. So hence why we usually have a, like I said, a hammock setting with a mosquito netting to keep the bugs out, because mosquitoes are a big issue here in Florida. And just to have some backups, you know, this is a sole emergency bivy. They come in very handy. This is a larger size. If you need it in, like I said, these, in case it's super cold and you ain't got nothing else, let's say you didn't dress it right for that, you have some backups. And having some really large, durable Mylar blankets can actually retain that heat and keep you warm in some of those situations. Also, to kind of go for under the ground, and what I mean not under the ground, but on the ground, you know, you can kind of split these open and kind of put something like underneath your hammock there, so that when you get out, you can put your gear on and whatnot in case the ground is somewhat damp, or there might be some dew or something in the morning. Now, this is what they call a shemagh. I'm not going to open it up. I'm sure a lot of people have seen a shemagh or know what it is at this point. I've done videos on it. But they come in handy for so many different things, from char cloth. Make sure you try to get at least the 100% cotton shemagh. There's a lot of fakes out there as well, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. Whatever you can get your hands on, anything is better than nothing, as I look at it. But they're huge, and they can be used for, you know, covering your face. They could be used for, you know, if you hurt yourself, filtering water, you know, carrying, you know, leaves and small branches and stuff to bring to you to kind of carry and haul over, kind of like these bags are as well. But like I said, you see the redundancies here. This is just a little face covering. You probably heard of a net gator. This is kind of the color of our woods here in this area, why we use this. And then having a couple of bandanas. Basically, they kind of work in the same manner as the shemagh does. You can use these even for some like medical emergencies, in regards to if you sprain like your arm or something like that. You need to kind of make a thing to hold your arm in a certain position or whatnot. But they can be used to filter water. Again, char cloth, covering your face. Also, if you're in a hot environment, you can soak these. Let's say you're near a creek or water or a spring or something like that. Soak these in water and kind of cool yourself down, wear it around the neck or on the head, and cool your body down. So there's lots of different uses, and that's why I kind of include or encompass all this gear here as cover, because you can cover your face, cover your body, you can sleep in it, and so on and so forth. This is how I look at it, and the redundancies associated with all these different gear when it comes to cover. All right, so let's move into containers. And of course, that's kind of basic. You can understand what a container is. Well, basically, any water bottle will do. And like I said, both me and my wife, we carry probably at least a case or more of water in our vehicles that we cycle through, because vehicles get very hot. But you just never know if you want to break down on the side of the road. Having accessible water is truly important. You'd be surprised how many people don't have access to water, and they break down in a really hot environment and bad things happen. But anyways, the best method for purifying water is boiling. So having something that you can boil is going to be super important. That being in mind, I prefer a single-walled stainless steel water bottle if you have it. It's kind of like how I have in my kit. The wife likes this because she always wants to say, well, what if I'm going to cook? I could pour water back into this or something like that. But that's her mindset in regards to this. Again, I'm building this kit specifically for her. You have a single wall bottle or canteen, something that can be placed on the coals, hence something like this. Something you could also cook food in. Again, something like this. Now, if you plan on being out there for longer periods of time, you might want to think outside of this. But we're also going to be looking at some of the filtration devices, because when it comes to container, mainly you're using it for water or drinkable water, or maybe you're going to clean yourself. I don't know, but basically you're going to be needing water to drink. So we're going to be looking at that aspect with all this gear here in front of us. All right, so outside of having, some water bottle in your vehicle, water filtration is key. And one of my favorites is the Silky Squeeze, or Sawyer Squeeze. I don't know why I said Silky. I guess my mind's still on the saw. But anyways, having a Sawyer filtration device, to me, I prefer these over the Life Straw. And you can get these like really good deals on some of these. Black Friday's coming up. You might be able to find some of those on that Black Friday sale somewhere, either on Amazon or Bass Pro or something. Who knows? Or even Walmart. Who knows who may have these on sale. But these are super awesome to have. And they're very portable. I like to keep it bagged up in a certain way just to keep any contaminants from getting in there and make sure it's clean. I'm a big proponent of Can of Provisions. You guys have probably known this if you watch any of my videos. They do have 10 purification tablets and a bunch of other varied stuff in here in regards to having a personal water decon kit. A lot of people have asked me. I'm not affiliated with this company. I'd love to be, because they're an awesome, awesome company. You can probably scan that there. I don't know if you pause the screen and scan that, it'll take you there. But you can just look up Can of Provisions Personal Water Decon Kit. It should pull up. If not, maybe I'll put a link to their website down below. But anyways, it's a nice sealed system. I like it. You just tear it open and you have access to things that are important, anti-diarrheal tablets. As you can kind of see the other things in there. That being said, so my wife loves this little thing here, and I'm going to show you guys this real quick. If you know how some people do the teepees to kind of hang their pot over there to kind of get boil water and whatnot, she loves this little quick device. And this is one that she keeps sealed up. Basically, this is to hang this with, and this is to put those 3 sticks through. And you can kind of hang this so it dangles over the fire so it's not right on the coals. But she likes this little kit. I forget where I got this kit at. I don't know. I don't remember. But I got 3 of them because they were at a good deal at the time. Maybe it says the name on it. There you go. Hubbish. Is that what it says? Hubbish. I don't know. Very cool. One other thing is if you're in an urban environment or suburban environment, having a Silcock key is probably going to be important to you, because then you can access the city's water or water in buildings or whatnot. Depending on what emergency happens to present itself, if the water is not tainted. Even pulling water out of using a Silcock key, I would probably still purify that water. That being said, let's kind of move inside here, because water is one thing, but also having, now everybody's different in regards to what they like for rehydration and whatnot. She likes the Propels because of the flavor and stuff like that, and Propel's one of her favorite things. So we keep these in there. Also, she also is going to have some backup purification with the P&G purifier water, and she keeps a pack of those, several packs of those, kind of nicely tucked away in there just in case. So again, water. You got to have water to survive, folks. It's one of the key things in general when it comes to survival, water and fire. I really focus a lot on there in general, just because I find it to be one of those things that are just super, super important. All right, so now we're going to talk about cordage. And you're probably going to be like, Gray, what is that? Well, it's fishing line, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But cordage is basically the backbone of creating a shelter. I prefer number 36 tarred bank line, but having some 550 cord is also a very great thing to have. So having a combination of these two is huge. There's a lot of different other survival cords out there that have additional strands for wire, snare wire, fishing, fire tinder. So there's lots of different options when it comes to cordage in itself. There's flat cordage now, but just have some cordage in general. So let's kind of talk about why I have these 3 here. All right, so some of you may or may not be familiar with tarred bank line. This stuff is really great for lashings because it holds knots super, super extremely well. It's nice to have this kit in your kit. I think so. I think everybody should have some tarred bank line. And of course, everybody's probably familiar with the 550 cord. All right, as you can see, this is kind of on a rig. And the reason that my wife loves this kind of little setup, and I got a couple of them. This is a smaller variation of it. This is 50 foot of paracord. This is actually made by Atwood Rope Manufacturing. It's a made in the USA kind of product. I like it because it has several different options on there. Because it makes it really easy to use. All right, I figured I was going to see if I can get it up closer. As you can see, it has a cutting edge on there for cutting in case you don't have access to a knife for some weird reason. Plus, it wraps around this really good. It has a nice little hidden compartment in there. You can throw a big lighter in there, some other fire starting material or whatnot. And it just wraps around this thing really good. And you know that you have 50 feet of paracord on there, and of course you can use their paracord or you can use whatever paracord that works for you after you run through this, because I suggest having the gear is great, but knowing how to use the gear and how to tie knots, which can be really boring to some folks, but I love learning about knot tying. I've done some courses on it, believe it or not, and it just comes in super handy for a lot of different things, from fishing to other options that you might have where you need tots, basically if you're setting up your shelter or whatnot in the woods. Knowing to having to do some sort of slip knots or whatnot is going to be beneficial. But nice little rig, I like it. So now let's move on to fishing line. And here in Florida, of course, we're surrounded by water, fresh water and salt water, depending on where you live, I guess. But there's always some sort of water. So having fishing line for a couple of different reasons. And this is a kind of a, what is this, a 20-pound test. So it's very, very, kind of, I don't say heavyweight, but more than your normal, let's say, creek fishing or whatnot. If you're there, usually you're using anywhere from 5 to 7 pounds, maybe around there. So we like to keep some of this in our packs in regards to, because we never know where we get fishing. Plus, I found a bunch of these kits on sale at one point. It's called the Speed Hook, and it's kind of automatic fishing, whatnot. And that's, of course, yeah, made in the USA. I like setting things like that. We've tried a couple of these, while we're out camping, and they're great that you can kind of set something like this up, and let it do its thing, and it works pretty damn good in regards to catching fish, and then having your line set up and whatnot. It's just a nice combination of the two. Maybe you want to make a little alarm system, some tripwire with some cans or whatever, some debris you might find. But yeah, it comes in very handy. One other thing I wanted to add to that, that I usually kind of keep in the kit with that, is this little line cutter. It comes in super handy. I don't know if you can see that there. Nice little quickie. We usually keep these in there. Keep them on the bag, on the outside of a bag or whatnot. But they come in handy for cutting fishing line. It's just really quick, boom, simple, easy to use. But anyways, cordage. So moving on to the 6C of survival, called candling, basically referring to the candle power of flashlights. Well, it's nice to have handheld flashlights and stuff like that, but also having headlamps is really good. She has her headlamp in her console, so I don't have it here for her, but I told her that she needs to add this to her kit, and we'll get a secondary headlamp as a backup. But anyways, also having, let's say, a strobe option is also beneficial to kind of ward off people, or signaling. Strobes, when you get hit by a strobe in the middle of the night, it will blind someone to the point where they're not going to be able to see for a few minutes and give you the opportunity to kind of get away. But we're going to talk about evasion and kind of like having a couple of things in your bag that might help you, that's outside of the 5 C's if you run into a situation, a nasty situation per se. So anyways, like I said, rescue in the dark, having a strobe is awesome, and I'll explain why she likes these 3. This was a flashlight I did a review not too long ago on, and the reason she liked that, because you can use it as a traditional light if you needed it, but she liked the aspect of that you can kind of convert this light, shoot this button, and use it as a lantern. So she liked having a combo light like that. I did a review on it. Maybe I'll put it up in the upper right-hand corner or whatnot, but she liked having this option of having this light that she can use as a lantern, and using it as a front-forward light too. She likes the head on it. So like I said, depends on what you're looking for. Everybody's gonna have different opinions on what they prefer. She also wants to have a light where she has extra batteries that she can use, a small little pen light. And this is something new. Olight sent this to me. I was supposed to do a Halloween thing, but between the hurricanes and all this other stuff that happened, and they sent me a couple of these with a couple of these different graphics. And this doesn't really matter, the graphics. It's a matter of the function of the light. It's called a flex light. And she likes it because you can kind of hang this on your pack. You can even use it as a headlamp. So when you have this on your hat, you can angle this light to kind of watch the trail. I'd like to do a review of this down the road because I really find these super useful. Also magnetic bottom, easy to charge, the clip. Like I said, you have options with this flex. If you want to hit it in your car and angle it, it's just so much you can do with a light like this. And I am an affiliate partnership with Olight, so my link is down in the description with any discount codes. Usually when they don't have sales, the discount code works amazing. And when they do have sales, I think the discount code doesn't work. But those are her 3 options in regards to having some lights. So again, this can be used as a headlamp. And you can, like I said, you can angle it to where you go. If you want it right at your feet or whatnot, you have some options. But having 3 different variations, one with the battery, a couple internals, and having the cords associated with these lights, which I'll go over here towards the end of this video. Now you're probably wondering, hey, didn't we just go over this stuff? Well, that's kind of what we did. But I think where were we at? Let me see. We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 7 on the 5 C's or 10 C's of survival is cotton material. And basically I guess the go-to is at least 3 foot square if possible, so that you can create a sling or a cravat. I don't know if that's a fancy term, cravat. But anyways, we're kind of going back to this. So that, like I said, you kind of want something that's going to be 100% cotton because you can do char cloth and stuff like that. Like I told you, bandanas can be also used as a hygiene device for washing up, or to carry things like firewood. I'm just going to be a little bit redundant with that. Like I said, dipping in a cool creek, to kind of cool you down, to use as a pre-filter to keep large sediment out of your water. And some people may have like an orange or a high vis one to use as a signaling device as well. But so we can go over that. I just wanted to make sure that I touched on that, as cotton is one of the 10 C's of survival. All right, so number 8 is cargo tape. See how they all start with C's? But anyway, so like I said, I utilize space in a bag. So cargo tape, basically also known as duct tape. I prefer the Gorilla brand or actual true duct tape, either way, just because it's preferred due to its strength and thickness, or stickiness, sorry, not thickness, strength and stickiness. Can be used everything from first aid. Let me see, it could be, you can create needed items. Basically, it's highly flammable. You can use like a golf ball size thing and kind of light it and use it as tinder. Like I said, basically. It'll last, actually, I think, if I recall correctly, probably 3 to 4 minutes or so, depending on the size that you do. But, when you need something, you need something. It can be stripped into small fibers and impromptu to make use like little bird's nests and whatnot, instead of using like actual tinder out there because everything is wet. And it can actually be ignited, if you do it the right way, by tearing it in very small little things. Like I said, you're making a bird's nest, so think about that in nature by turning on your ferrocerium rod. But you can also use it to patch things up. You can use it for like blisters and whatnot. Maybe you don't have like the one tape that goes on your heels or whatnot. And things like that. So like I said, duct tape has 1,000,001 uses, at least how I look at it. But I incorporate that without having a separate entity of duct tape. There's duct tape here, there's duct tape here, and there's duct tape here. So you can see how I've incorporated one of those C's into my fire starting kit. But also I have enough, there's 25 feet here, 5 feet here, and I think there's only a foot there. But between 25, 30, 31 feet roughly of duct tape readily accessible. Hey, it's part of the kit. All right, folks, we are almost there. We're at number 9. And of course, if you want to stay for the couple additional add-ons, I guess one of the C's that I added on is communications, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But having a compass that you can trust is going to be very, very important. Know how to use a compass and how to set a compass up, how to shoot an azimuth, to know where your bearing is going. Some compasses have mirrors in them. This one I don't think does. No, this one does not. It's not like my compass. But anyways, Mirrors are good for a couple of different things in regards to having compasses, you know, you can do different things with it as signaling. You can look for ticks and lice and insect, small cuts and whatnot. I don't know. Lots of different things that you can use kind of for, you know, a mirror or whatnot. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. Also, I want to mention, you might want to have a map of the area, a generalized map, and maybe a topo map that you might want to add in your kit. I'm not going to show that because I have ours marked up with specific caches and things like that. It's all kind of encoded in a way that we all understand, but I just don't want to kind of give away specific locales or where things may be, because there's some smart people on the internet. You know, encompassing in this kit, I have a couple of different things. Like I said, the compass itself that we just went over. This is I call it a map square. I think there's a different term for it. What is it? Let me see if it'll say it on here. What do we got here? Military triangular scale protractor. There you go. That is the technical term for it. Let me see if I can get that up there. Basically, this is for mapping. I like to have a couple of different things. Pencils. Reason I like pencils, I put a couple of ones that are not sharp that, but you can just take your knife and sharpen those off and have several different pencils. You just never know. This is one of those grease markers that you can just write on stuff, and it works really good. And I'm not going to open up that. I'm going to pull the back of this because there's some important information on there. But having some write in the rain stuff, if you're trying to draw some stuff out here, like say, you know, you have a little area and you're like, this is over here, this is over here, I cut through this way, you know, you kind of want to draw some things out or take some notes. These write in the rain pads are very good. They fit almost anywhere. They're very thin, and they can get saturated and wet very easily. And they do make the write in the rain pens. I do have a few of those floating around. But these are good to take notes in. Like I said, the first part of this has been written in and has some special stuff in there that I'm not going to show on camera. But this is kind of my compass, kind of navigation little kind of kit here outside of the maps and stuff like that. All right, number 10 of the 10 C's of survival. We made it, folks. But stay tuned. I got some extra things for you guys to take a look at if you choose to do so. The video is kind of long, I get it. But canvas needles. This is also called a sail needle. And the one that people like the most is number 14. It's a good size for making repairs to packs, tents, tarps, or even clothing. It could also be used to remove splinters. Some people put these in Altoid tins and stuff like that, or other little places with a thing. They'll tape them to their knife sheath. You can carry a conventional sewing needle, which are great, but they're more kind of geared towards, I guess, just specifically clothing. Whereas the sail needle can handle inner paracord fibers, strands, or bank line strands. Again, remember paracord, bank line. And what I like about this one is, I don't know if I can bring this up really close to you. This one has several different, ranging from 13 to 19. And these are probably the best that I could find in regards to a sail needles or canvas needles. And they come in like a little 5-pack in here. And they fit nice in a pack. Like I said, really good. It's just super handy to have in case you need to make repairs or other things on the go. That's going to conclude the 10 C's of survival and the foundation of most people's packs. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple other different things. We're going to talk about communications and a couple other odds and ends that I'm adding in her pack for her. All right, so maybe this is the 11th C. Maybe there's 20 C's now. I don't know. There probably is. There's probably different, but communications. So, of course, in a normal situation, you're going to have your phone. Having a phone is just your direct line of communication. But as a lot of folks know that get hit by Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, that you can't always depend on the system of the cell towers and stuff being up. But maybe you have pictures, maybe you have other things to entertain yourself, some games, things that you don't need cell, just having it with you just for morale or whatnot. But maybe you will get cell signal eventually. I don't know, depending on what the cell situation is. But phone, that's going to be one of your primary forms of communications. And then, of course, the good old Baofeng, right? And folks, if you own one of these things, I have the extended batteries. I prefer them because they have a Type-C connector versus the barrel connector on a lot of these things that charge them. And you get a lot more life for a few more bucks. And also having a good antenna is going to be important. But folks, you need to learn how to program these. You need to understand how to use them, what all the buttons mean. If you don't have access to a computer in the woods, you need to learn how to program these things on the fly. You need to know your repeaters. Lots of different things. I'm not going to go too deep into the UV5R, but if you've been watching prepping channels for a long time, you've probably noticed that there's a lot of these. And some people are like, Grey, why do you have this tied up? Well, it just stays out of the way and it just pops back open. But also for extreme situations, I do carry a flat antenna like this that connects to the good old Baofangs UV5Rs. That being said, having a way to listen to the radio or communications or weather stations or whatnot, these little crank radios are pretty good. They run on battery. They can be USB charged. They have little solar things on there. They have a little flashlight. It's just a kind of all-in-one special thing. You just never know. If some craziness is going on and you need to stay in the know, you can actually plug a headphone into this and listen to it as well. So in case there's people around and you're trying to be that covert situation, these can come in very handy, just kind of being in the know. Like I said, these do have weather things on there. We do a lot of configuration for these things. We do some stuff that I don't want to talk about on tubes. But while we're here talking about the phone, another device that I like to use, and I've gotten a couple of these now. These are these things. I've done a review on that. You've probably seen it. I think it's one of my highest viewed videos at the point. But it's a thermal camera that plugs into the phone. As long as you have power to that phone, you have a thermal camera. And being at night vision can be quite expensive when it comes to having access to seeing in the dark and not people seeing you. And night, some like the cheap night vision has those I forget those tubes, but you can kind of see the light coming off it or whatnot. I like using thermal. It just works great. It's like I said, it's not a substitute for night vision, but it does a really good job. If you're really interested in this, I did a review on it. I've gotten 4 of these now. A couple of for us at the home as backups, as well as a friend of mine bought one for them. I think they got down to just $300 or $400. I think that was the cost on them. I think they're down to $299, maybe $399. I'm not sure. You'd have to check that video and look at the links that I left in that description for the thing itself. But anyways, communications. That's what I wanted to go with this. So being that we talked about communications, having every possible cord necessary for every device and then some is an option. We try to keep, I don't know if you can see in there, just every different type of cord that you can possibly think of for every different device, from phones to solar chargers to barrel connectors to battery chargers, everything that connects to the little brick that we carry. I don't know if you've seen the bricks. I found one that I really want to show you guys, but I'll do a review on it later. But I think it's up to like 36,000 milliamps. But it's to charge small electronics like your comms, your phones, your radios, or anything like that. Or if you have some of those foldable solar panels that you can kind of tuck away in your bag as well. But making sure that you have all the proper wires and additional wires in case some don't work. Like you can see some of the Olight wires in there and whatnot. Make sure that you have enough wires, folks. This is the fun stuff. Protection, right? This is a worst case scenario kind of situation. And what I mean by that, you're probably wondering what some of this stuff is, right? So anyways, this is what the wife likes to carry. She just likes the combination of that. This is clear. There's nothing in there. YouTube, see? Nice and clean and safe. And then that kind of goes with that. So you have one and then a couple of other additionals. And then worst case scenario, it gets really bad, you have a box of 50 to kind of replenish this situation here. So having protection, of course, is going to be super important. Something small and compact. I mean, if you're walking around with a rifle, you're going to have a big red target on your back. I like to walk around with the rifle with me. I've been trying to get my wife to kind of, comprehend my perspective on having a rifle, but she doesn't. There's certain things that we're trying to work itself out. I think this is a secondary and a rifle is a primary, but that's just from my training and my expertise in regards to what I do. But she feels that this works best for her. Now, this is these are kind of distraction devices, right? You might have seen some of these things floating around. They might use them for airsoft and stuff like that, but it's not military grade or anything like that, so people don't freak out on me or whatnot. But this is just like a noise, kind of like a little, kind of scare people away, or just, when you throw something like this that looks at somebody that might be chasing you, it's a bright flash, it's very loud, and they're pretty cheap in general. And just having at least one of these to kind of get away can help, so you don't have to, let's say you don't have to go this direction, you just kind of want to go that direction and scare people away. And then this is smoke, basically to cover, let's say you're trying to go from point A to point B, and someone's coming from point A, and you kind of want to zigzag into C. This can kind of cover your tracks, or if you need to pull this for, rescue or whatnot, it's very simple, pop, and you're popping smoke. These are just a couple of things. usually I only put a couple of these in there because these are like, this is like a worst case scenario, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And that's how I look at it. But all in all, I figured I would wrap up this video with some fun stuff on here and kind of show you some ideas. So what do you guys think? I'm looking down in the comments. I'm really eager to read your comments, things that you might add, subtract, things you have questions on, because there's a lot of things I did not show. There's like, I didn't show, hey, the wool socks and having an extra pair of socks and or shirts, being that this is built out for my wife. What about, something that's, like sanitary applications, female sanitary napkins, I think they're called specifically, stuff like that. Those are things that she's going to add. These are, I just kind of wanted to help her with the foundation of it and kind of give you guys an overview to hopefully you guys can derive some ideas from this. That being said, I got one more thing, because some folks may ask, well, hey, Gray, what about a trauma kit or something like that? Well, this is a trauma kit that I built out. I did a video on this, building my own individual first aid kit. There's a video on it, how to build your own IFAK and save money. Or you can go to one of my affiliate partners like Refuge Medical and buy a IFAK kit from them. One thing I want to mention with the IFAK is knowing how to use the equipment inside of it. But also they have smaller ones, like the wife. She loves the ankle IFAK that they have on their website. We got a couple of those that she likes. I think there's one for the belt. They got a lot smaller. This is just kind of one that I built out. I figured some people may, want to try to do it, have an option to do that. So I went ahead and just built one myself. I think it was through our Army Navy Outdoors is how I built this thing out. Another thing is, now I'm not saying throw these huge things in your bag because they have a lot of weight. There's a lot of smaller variations of this, having tourniquets and whatnot. And this is just kind of an ouchie boo-boo kit, but you can dumb this down into a smaller kit because I think medical is also extremely important. So find a way to, kind of make this a little bit smaller in regards to a 72-hour kit, or maybe you're one of those big boys and you want to have a huge bag and you don't care what's in there, and you can ruck, 60, 70, 80 pounds and no problem. Then, do what you do. But I just wanted to mention that, throw that real quick, because I know some folks may ask. All right, folks, let's bounce back to me. All right, folks, we are at the end of the video. Folks, I really hope that, this video helps some people out there who are either just getting into prepping, who are looking to build a bag out. I hope it sparks some ideas with some of you folks out there to give you at least a direction to go in when you're building a get home bag or a bug out bag, or maybe even I'm never coming home bag, as they call it, inch bags, or just an emergency kit that you may want to put to the side or in your vehicle for emergency situations, be it hurricanes, tornadoes, storms and all that kind of stuff like that, as well as a true nasty situation that may come up. You just never know. We are probably, a few days away from an election, and you just never know what's going to happen and how crucial some of this stuff can be when an emergency presents itself. I've had people reach out to me, in a comment section, say, all what you're doing is a waste of time. And then those folks find themselves in a situation where they're like, man, I wish I would have really listened to that guy because he's living his life in a preparedness mindset, because something is always bound to happen. Your car is always bound to break down at one point or another. There's always a storm brewing somewhere. It could be, like I said, the people in North Carolina and Tennessee and Florida, have experienced this firsthand and have been pushed out of places. And maybe they would have a better odds in regards to having a bag to take with them when an emergency presents itself. You see the river starting to overflow, or a tornado's headed your direction, or whatever it may be. Having a kit ready to go rock and roll, basically, is going to be truly beneficial to you and your family, especially if everyone in your household has a similar plan, because that's where it all starts with, is having a plan and the gear and the knowledge on to use the gear that's what's inside this bag. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed the video, and again, I hope that some folks take away from this and share this out to people that may find this helpful to other folks out there that where I may not reach. You know what I mean? There's lots of videos on YouTube in regards to bug out bags and get home bags and all that stuff like that. And everybody has their own take specifically, and this is kind of mine. As always, my goal here on YouTube is to kind of showcase certain products and certain things to educate people on different aspects of emergency preparedness, be it gardening or food preservation and things of that nature. Someone said I should not say that as much, but you know, that's just my personality and then things that come to the top of my head. I guess it's better than saying a lot, right? Anyways, folks, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got any value at all, hit that thumbs up button, which would be greatly appreciated. And if you're new here, take a chance to subscribe, check out the rest of the channel. Lots of content to go through. And let me know what you think down in the comments in regards to what I showed you in this video or other videos. And I try to read through those comments because I'm always learning myself. You never know what someone else may have done that might be an easier process or a better product or something that they've used, you know, that's come in a pinch and saved somebody or saved themselves in an emergency situation. Outside of that, folks, remember, you are not alone. This is GreyMan. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the rebound. God bless every single one of you amazing people out there. And again, thank you for taking the time to watch this video.